Good morning, YouTube. This is Obsidian Anubis, and I'm here with my 4th 9th Age battle report. This is the Battle of Empire of Sohnstahl versus Saurian Ancients, 2,500 points, with the rule set 0.99.4. Alright, so let's go and look at the armies. So I brought 5 Reader Knights over here on my left flank with Musician and Heavy Armor. Next to that I have a group of Spearmen, which will acting as flagellants in this match, so 30 flagellants with the champion. Behind them I have a cannon with an engineer attached to that, and a mortar being proxied by my volley gun. Next to that is my arcane engine of foreseeing. In front of that I have my big block of halberdiers, 50 halberdiers with full command. They have the war banner. I have 2 characters in that group. I have a cleric with a great weapon and blessed armor, and then a captain with the winter cloak, who's also my BSB. To the right of that I have 20 swordsmen. You can kind of see them in the upper left hand corner of this. I have a 20 crossbowmen with a banner, a light infantry detachment. They're on top of the hill. And then with them I have my level 4, who's Lord of Shadow, with the Dispel Scroll. And then to the right of that I have 12 knights with full command and the gleaming icon. And in that group is my general, who is a cleric, or a prelate, the Lord version, who has the Arm of Destiny, Horse Embarding, and the Hero Sword. And then finally over here on the far right in the woods I have 10 archers. For my spells, I got Shadow Step, Turn to Smoke, Glimpse of the End, Devouring Darkness, and Mind Razor. And my opponent brought a very similar list to the last game, if you watch that. So over here on the left flank they have a group of 25 Saurus Warriors, full command. My opponent does put a character in there. You can't see him in the picture, but there's a Scar Vet with the Axe of Battle in that group. In front of them are 15 Skink Braves. And then to the right of that, in the ruins, you see my opponent already put the 10 Chameleons. So this is after scouting. Behind that is a Spearback, and next to that is a level 1 Wilderness with a Dispel Scroll. Next to that is a Bastillodon. Another block of 25 Saurian Warriors, full command. And this one has his level 3 Skink Priest, Lore of Nature. And in front of that, another 15 Skink Braves. And over on my opponent's left flank, my right flank, a Stegodon with upgrade of Engine of the Ancients. Another Spearback, a third block of 25 Saurian Warriors, full command, and in there you can see his general, Saurian Warlord with the Sword of Strife in the left corner. And in front of that is 25 Skink Braves with 2 Caimans, full command, and there's a Skink character in there who has like the bow that like always hits on a 4 and impact hits like a crossbow or a bolt throw. And that character's in there somewhere too. And then to the right of that is 3 Skyriders. So this is what the battlefield looks like after deployment. For secondary objectives, we got Hold the Ground, so you can see the little icon there in the middle, the little bead. So for this match, I wanted to really try to work on my skills as a general, because I felt, if you guys have watched my other previous videos, I haven't done so well overall in the whole, winning part of the game. So one thing I did is I took more troops because I always thought I was outnumbered. And the second thing I really wanted to try to be more of a general versus just kind of just throwing my troops out there just to fight. So when I took this picture, I started thinking, all right, where do I want to get my matchups? So I wanted my Pistoliers or my Readers to clear the Skyriders so they don't harass my cannons, and then maybe try to sneak around that right flank because my opponent doesn't have a lot of shooting. So if I can do that, then I think they'll be safe from being shot, and maybe I can just kind of pick at people in the end. The Flagellants, I want to get them into contact with one of the Saurian blocks. I don't particularly care. I don't know if it was the purple one or the green ones I was after. I just wanted to get them into contact with Saurian warriors and not the Skinks. Skinks with initiative 4 would go before my Flagellants, and I felt like I'd be losing unnecessary Flagellants if I got them into contact with Skinks. So I actually wanted to get my Halberdiers into the Skinks and Caiman group. So I kind of want to do like a crisscross, and this Halberds after the Skinks and the Flagellants after the Saurus warriors. The group of 20 swordsmen, they're there to watch the flank of my halberd group and maybe clear some of the chaff, get rid of some of those Skinks and Spearbacks if I can. The crossbowmen and the wizard, they'll mainly just to kind of clear the chaff and probably target the Spearbacks. Those are my main targets. And then my knights up there, I want them to kind of go around those woods and fields and come in and try to hit the orange Saurian block, the one at the very top here, and see if I can crush them and then kind of start moving down and join the rest of my forces. So that's the plan anyways. So I finished deployment first, so I got a +1 and ended up going first, so Empire of Sohnstahl, turn 1. So this is the end of my movement. You can see I didn't move up too much on the first turn. I wanted to give my guns a chance to fire before I committed all my forces. For magic, I rolled 5 power dice. I threw the first 2 at Thunderbolt, the bound item attached to the Arcane Engine, at his Skyriders. I killed 1 and injured 1, so unfortunately my opponent passed their panic test. Actually, spoiler alert, my opponent passed every panic test they ever had to make in this game. So just that little spoiler there. The rest of the dice I threw at some shadow spell, I think at his chameleons because they were the only ones in range, and my opponent dispelled it. So that was the end of magic phase. For shooting, my mortar targeted the Cayman skink block because the toughness is lower, so I figured I could kill more. And it did a direct hit, and I ended up killing about 8, I think, and putting 1 wound on one of the Cayman. My cannon, with the engineer, shot at the Stegodon, but I think I rolled a 2 to hit, so it misfired. It missed. It didn't misfire, it just missed. And I think my crossbowmen were out of range, and same with my archers, so no other shooting. So Saurian Ancient, turn 1. So as normal, my opponent moved up pretty aggressively, so I'm moving around. You can see in the top, they turned the Saurus Warriors to fight my knights, and kind of just moved up to the chaff. Moved the chameleons out of the ruins and put one of the spearbacks in the ruins. The Skyriders kind of moved to the flank of my readers, and everybody else just kind of moved up. For magic, my opponent rolled 7 power dice. They threw, 3 dice at Beast Within on the Skink Cayman group. My opponent wanted to get this so that they would be tougher when I blasted them again with a mortar. I went ahead and just let this through because my opponent miscast, rolled 2 6s on it. So I'm like, okay, you can have that. And I think they put a wound on the level 4 and lost the rest of the dice. So that was the end of my opponent's magic phase. For shooting, the Skink started shooting at my swordsman group and killed off 4. I think this was Skinks and Spearbacks, if the ones that were range. And then over here on the right flank, between the Spearback on the right flank and the 2 Skyriders, they killed off 3 of my readers, and they failed the panic test and started running away. So and that brings us to Empire of Sohnstahl, turn 2. So for turn 2, I declared a charge with my knights. I failed 1 dangerous terrain, and 1 of my knights went down to meet the Maker. But other than that, they made it into contact. And after that, I felt like I need to be more aggressive. I've been pretty held back for all my games and haven't done too well in most of my other games. So I figured I'd be much more aggressive. I gave myself a turn on shooting, now I'm going to move up. So I started moving up my troops, as you can see, pretty aggressively, as I would consider aggressively, at least for me. For magic phase, I rolled 8 power dice. I threw some at Thunderbolt and blasted the remaining Skyriders, so killed them. Everybody within 6 inches, of course, passed the panic test. Oh, I also rallied my readers as well this turn. I also managed to get turned to smoke off on the Skink Cayman group. They will starting to get within charge range of my halberdiers, and well, actually my flagellants and halberdiers. So I wanted to just reduce their strength so that if my opponent did decide to charge in, they wouldn't be all that strong. I think those are the only spells I got off. Moving to shooting, my cannon targeted the Stegodon again, and this time hit and caused 2 wounds. So that was great. And my mortar, even with the buff up, I went ahead and targeted the Skink Cayman group. It went off a little ways, about 4 inches behind. Ended up killing a couple Skinks and a couple of Saurus Warriors. In close combat, my knights plowed into the Saurian Warriors. You can see I killed off 5. I lost 2 in return. My general, the priest, went ahead and challenged his Saurian vet with the Axe of Battle. I knew I wouldn't win that, but my priest has a 2-up, 4-up save, so I figured I could at least soak up some of the wounds, so that way I wouldn't lose as many knights as fast. So, unfortunately, my opponent, of course, passed the panic test, or rally break test, and we all held. So that brings us to Saurian Ancient's turn 2. My opponent was a little, I think, taken aback by my aggressive moves of moving up so quick, and actually just kind of sidestepped his troops, didn't really move them too much, kind of just moved the chameleons up more to kind of just harass my troops and maybe get in the way. And here's just another picture of the left flank. You can see things kind of moving up. So I don't have a picture of the power dice, but my opponent got off some growth on the Skink Cayman and killed a couple of Skinks. And then I think my opponent attempted to cast Dwellers, and I dispelled that. Next, shooting, the Skinks / Spearback / Chameleon started shooting at my swordsman and killed off 2 more. And that was it. That was the end of my opponent's shooting. They didn't do too well that turn. So that brings us to turn 3, Empire of Sohnstahl. So this is what the board looks like after movement. Again, I'm still trying to move up pretty aggressively. I want to get within charge range of my Halberdiers so I can charge over to those Skink Caimans and then kind of cross over with my Flagellants behind them towards the kind of middle of the battlefield. You can see that my Swordsmen moved up quite a bit. They declared a charge on the Chameleons who fled, and I actually caught them. So I fled, moved across the board quite a bit. Out of position now, but there's nothing really too devastating in the Halberd's flank, so I don't feel too worried about that at the moment. For power dice, I rolled a 10. This is my new max now, so that's pretty impressive. So, maybe the gods of just Sigmar or Uther or whatever the new gods are, maybe they'll start to shine down on my troops. So first I cast Mind Razor, I think with 5 dice. I didn't dispel. My opponent threw all 4 of their dice at it and did not get it, so I got Mind Razor off. I believe I cast this on my Halberdiers. I cast this on my Knights. I cast this on my Knights because I wanted to... I thought I'd kill more when I charged in, and the fact that my opponent didn't lose so many, I was a little worried, so I got Mind Razor off, which was fantastic. And also, my opponent used all the dice, so they are now completely out of dispel dice. So next I threw up Thunderbolt on one of the Spearbacks and killed it outright. And last I threw up Falloon's Blessing on the Knights. I actually realized I should have cast the other one that gave me a 5-up ward save because I got Mind Razor off, so I actually didn't need to re-roll wounds because I didn't have to roll for wounds anyways. But, hindsight 2020. Yeah, so there's a picture once more of my troops moving up there. For shooting, my cannon targeted the Tegadon, and you can see with the red star, it blew it up. So managed to get rid of that beast, which was fantastic. You can see the other spear back there. My mortar once more targeted this group of Skink Caiman and did a direct hit and killed off another 7 or 8, I think, and put a second wound on this one of the Caiman. And then in close combat, yeah, with Mind Razor and all my other spells, I wiped that unit out. I killed like 10 or 11. They broke. I ran them down and did a combat pivot. The actual one troop I did lose actually was from dangerous terrain, not my opponent. So yeah, my opponent did nothing that turn and lost that unit, which was great. It brings us to turn 4. So this is actually where we made a mistake. So that was my turn 3, and so it should have been my opponent's turn 3, the bottom of 3, but we got caught up in the battle and we switched it to 4. So we actually only played 5 turns in this game instead of 6. But so yeah, this is Saurian Ancient turn 4, which would really be turn 3. And this is just an overview of what the battlefield looks like. You can see I pivoted my Knights to kind of start coming down the flank and moved up the rest of my troops pretty aggressively. For my Swordsmen, I mean, they'll just try to see if they can clear some chaff and then maybe just go up to the hold the ground icon and just kind of hold that if they can for the rest of the game. That's why I gave them the banner. So my opponent just kind of pivots the Skinks like this to shoot at my Swordsmen some more. Other than that, my opponent didn't really move up. I think they were still kind of shocked that I was moving up, and with those Caiman horde now diminished, they didn't want to throw it in combat. I think they wanted to try to get off some more summer growth to bring some back before they committed it to combat. So Magic, my opponent rolled 8 power dice. So again, summer growth on the Skink Caiman group. I didn't see this as a huge problem. I mean, if my opponent got 4 Skinks, that's not going to be a problem. So I let this through. My opponent, I think, healed 3 Skinks, and then I dispelled Dwellers. So, oh no, that's not true. Sorry, my opponent did Summer Growth, and they miscast this again, and so I let them have it. And then my opponent miscast, sent this large round templator over the wizard, and killed off 5 of their own troops. So, and then they lost the rest of the dice. So, I think that was fine. I mean, just let my opponent blow themselves out. That works. For shooting, my opponent shot the Spearback Skinks into my Halberdiers, and I lost 3 there, although it looks like I've lost some more in previous shooting turns. The Skinks that turned to fight my Swordsmen shot and killed a couple of them. You can see them in the front left corner. They're actually fleeing at the moment, because they were fleeing from the nearest group of Skinks, which was the group that shot at them, so they're now fleeing across the board. So Empire of Sohnstahl turn 5. Well, first thing I do is I think I declared a charge with my Halberdiers on his Skink Caiman horde. He held and I failed. Next, I rallied my swordsman with the flag there in the middle of the battlefield. I also moved my knights pretty close to his Bastillodon, so I could get an easy charge off next turn, and there's no way he could really counter that. And then you can also see in the top right of this picture, next to the little building, is my remaining one Pistolier. I think my opponent shot the other one, and so it actually rallied, and it's just kind of moving up there, just kind of just harassing the Sauruses. And I'm probably going to send it towards that level 1 Wilderness Beast Skink there in the back, because he doesn't have any army to hide in, or any unit to hide in, so I'll probably send him after that. For the magic phase, I rolled a big 2 power dice, so I'm like, okay, well, I'll throw both spells, and threw both at Thunderbolt, a Spearback, and killed that. I think I did exactly 3 wounds, so that was perfect. And that ended my magic phase, so we went straight to shooting. And this turn, both of my war machines misfired at the same time. I think, when it happens to one, the other one goes left out, and it happens too. Even with my engineer, yeah, they both misfired, and I think they both rolled 2, so they're both out for the rest of the game. So much for my shooting. Good thing I was more aggressive. Saurian Ancient turn 5. My opponent finally declared a charge with the Skink Caimans into my Flagellants. This isn't the matchup I was looking for, but they've been reduced that I'm hoping I can just blow through them and then without losing too many. You can also see that my opponent turned their purple Saurus Warriors to face my Knights should I overrun the Bastillodon, which I thought was smart. For Magic, my opponent got 7 power dice. They attempted to throw the Beast Within on... who did they throw this up on? I think they threw it up on the Skink Caiman cohort. Yeah, that's what they did. They threw it on the Skink Caiman cohort, and then attempted to cast Dwellers on my Halberdiers, and that I dispelled. Shooting, my opponent just targeted this block with pretty much everybody they had, and killed off, I think I had 3. Killed off 3 more. So now I don't have a complete range, so now that unit is not a scoring unit, unfortunately, so that's kind of a bummer. Going into close combat, yeah, you can also see it looks like that my opponent also shot at some of my Halberdiers and killed off, looks like 6 there. So I think those were the other skinks that targeted that group. Yeah, and then close combat. So yeah, like I said, my opponent got Beast Within off on the group, but it really didn't matter. With my Flagellants having, strength 5 against skinks, which normally have like toughness 2, so toughness 3, it really didn't make that much of a difference. So yeah, I killed. You can just see that pile of skinks in the back. I think there's like 11 or more. I totally decimated my opponent. Although, I mean, to be fair, they killed 8 of my guys, so I mean, I lost a good chunk. So my opponent failed that panic break test, and I overran and wiped them out. And now like 2 inches in front of the Saurian warriors that was behind them. So that brings us to Empire of Sohnstahl turn 6. So this is the final turn of the game. Although this is really only turn 5, but we thought it was the last turn of the game. So for charges, I went ahead and charged my Flagellants into the Saurus Warriors and my Halberdiers into that group. I also charged my swordsman into the skinks there just to stop my opponent from shooting at me. Because I was tired of getting shot at. So I figured I might do a little bit more in combat because I have a charge, a banner, and if I can do 1 wound, my opponent does have a rank and would be steadfast, but anything's possible. For power dice, I rolled 10 power dice, so good magic phase, except my opponent had a dispel scroll. So I don't think I got off any spells this turn, which is very sad. So this is what it looks like after combat. You can see in the you can see that I charged it with my knights as well into the Bastillodon. I put 3 wounds onto it, so it has 1 wound remaining. So hopefully I can kill that off on my opponent's turn, and that'll be perfect because then my opponent can't charge me, and I would have just killed the Bastillodon, and we would have been great. You can see that between the skink and the swordsman, it was a pillow fight. I don't think I caused any wounds to them. They didn't cause any wounds to me. I charged, had a banner. They have a rank. They failed by 1. They easily passed that break test. Between these, the large block to the right, I mean, I lost tons of troops. With that general in there, that general, I think, by himself killed like 6 of my Halberdiers, because he has 5 attacks normally, plus he has Sword of Strife, which gives him like 3 more, so 8 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, with no armor saves. Yeah, I lost Halberdiers and Flagellants by the horde. I ended up losing combat, but with all my bonuses, I only ended up losing by, I think, 1 or 2. And so I passed with my break test for my Halberdiers, and my Flagellants are unbreakable, so they didn't care. So this brings us to Empire of Saurian Ancient turn 6, so the final turn of the game. So movement, my opponent didn't have any movement, so we went straight to magic. So my opponent rolled 8 power dice. First they threw up Summon Growth. Again, if my opponent wanted to heal 1 or 2 Star Swords, I didn't think that was a big deal. I let this through. Next they threw up, I think they attempted to throw up Beast Within on. I dispelled that, and that was the end of my opponent's magic phase. Shooting, with my swordsman now in combat, they started shooting at my crossbowmen and killed off 3, but I think it was just mainly just because my opponent had nothing else to do, so it didn't cause anything, nothing significant. And then close combat. Whew, well, let's start with the knights. You notice I actually have missed a couple of knights. The skinks actually, I think, managed to punk one of my knights off, and I couldn't get that last wound off that stupid Pistodon. So it's still alive with 1 wound left. With my knights and my general in there, I couldn't get off that last wound. My opponent was just rolling up. I mean, it has a 2-up arm save, but it's strength 5, so I had a 4-up arm save, and I think I did like 5 wounds, and my opponent rolled 4s and better on all 5. I was like, ugh, seriously? In close combat with the swordsman and skinks, you can see I lost, looks like 2 warriors, and I don't think I did anything to the skinks. So I had a banner, they had a rank, they had 2 wounds. I failed by 2, but I think I actually failed the first one, but my BSB was within 12 inches, so we just re-rolled and I passed that. And then in the BSB fight with the general and the flagellants, you can see there's a lot of troops missing. Yeah, again, I wiped out a good, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Looks like I killed off 12 of his, and he killed off, I think, 16 of mine between my flagellants and my halberdiers. It was, I ended up failing by 4, but because I did the cold-blooded rule, so I could roll 3 leadership dice, I ended up holding. I mean, my fanatics, luckily for this, my fanatics would hold no matter what. So if my BSB unit halberdiers broke, at least my opponent couldn't chase me, but I would lose my BSB, so I'm glad they did hold. So yeah, this is actually the last picture of the game because we thought this was turn 6. Had we continued another round, I think I would have broken that Saurian warrior unit. There's only, I think, 5 Saurian warriors plus the general. So I would have put all my attacks into the Saurian warriors, and I think I would have killed them outright before they even had a chance to go. So that would have given me a combat res of 5. I have a BSB, so that's 6, a banner 7, and a war banner, so that's 8. So that would give me a standing bonus of 7. My opponent has, like I said, 8. My opponent does have a standing of 8 attacks. So assuming if they didn't hit on everything, I think I did the statistics, they would hit on 6, wound on 5 of those, so I would lose 5 guys. So my opponent would lose by 3. So I think I was telling myself that my opponent would have broken to that with leadership 9, so cold-blooded, so they would need a roll of 6. So, it's doable. That I would have won that combat, run them down, and defeated my opponent's right flank. I think in the center of the board, I would have eventually lost my 2 swordsmen, so my opponent would have gotten that unit fully instead of just half of it. But it was like 90 points, so it wasn't anything big. And I think up in the left, I think I hopefully could have taken that last wound off the Bestowodon and wiped it out. My opponent might have charged it in if I killed it on my turn, however. So if my opponent did do that, I may be in trouble. But there's no Saurian general or character on that unit. There's only this wizard. So I would have put all my attacks towards the wizard, tried to kill the wizard. And I think I might have, I'm telling myself I might have held. I still had the Gleaming Pendant at this time. I hadn't used it yet because they never had to make a panic test or never had to make a test of any kind. And they failed. So I think if I would have destroyed the Bestowodon and my opponent charged into me, I think my knights would have held. I may have lost half points because of, through the casualties, but I think I would have held. Yeah, so that was the end of this battle. So this is actually a 13-7 victory for the Empire of Sohnstahl. So this is my first victory out of the new rule set, pretty much, since 9th Age. I think this is my 7th battle, and this is my first victory. I've had a couple draws, but this is my first victory. Nobody claimed the secondary objective. I have a banner, but I don't have 5 ranks. So, I don't have a rank, so I don't get it. And my opponent just had light troops nearby, so neither of them have a banner nor a rank. So nobody got the secondary objective. So, I don't know. I thought the battle went pretty well. I think it helped that I was a bit more aggressive in this battle. So I think it may have been... I think I may need to be more aggressive. Even though I have the artillery range, it might be better just to go ahead and move up my troops anyways, just to get them into combat. After this battle, my opponent should be more or less happy since they won most of the matches. But I think at this time, this is like I said, our 7th game with very similar lists. So my opponent was getting a little bored. So we decided that after this battle, we're going to do a mini campaign. So I'll give you guys just a little sneak peek for the next battles coming up. So the fluff behind it is that an ancient plaque that was stolen from Lustria long ago has been, one of the Slan has found it, in one of his meditation trances. But it's no longer in one piece. It's been broken into 3 pieces throughout the Empire. And so the Slan priest has summoned a group of Saurian warriors and opened a gateway to teleport them to the new world, or to the old world, into the heart of the Empire to go claim these 3 pieces of the plaque and bring them back to Lustria. So that's the fluff behind what we're going with. So it'll probably, it will definitely be 9th Age. It probably won't be 2,500 points. It'll probably be a variation. We may do a step up. So, the first one's like 1,000, second one's 15, third one's 20, or 2,000. But we'll see. But yeah, if you guys have any comments or saw any mistakes that we made, because I'm sure we made some, if you could point those out, that'd be fantastic. If you have anything you'd like to otherwise say, go ahead and leave them in the comment section. I'll try to get back to you. I'm also on the 9th Age forums on the Obsidian Anubis, so you can always message me there if you have a question about anything. And yeah, if you guys could hit like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. And as always, game on.